Okay, it is 6 o'clock and it's time to bring our April 13th, 2026 City Council meeting to order, and we will begin with roll call, please. Susan?
Sarchet?
Here.
Savage?
Here.
Dvorak?
Here.
Hill?
Here.
Otis?
Here. Item number 3, approval of agenda. I'll ask for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Item 4 is a public hearing on the proposed fiscal year FY 2027 budget. Chelsea is going to lead that presentation.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to present to you all the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget. As elected officials, establishing the city budget is one of the most important things that you do for our community. Our goal through this whole process is to allocate the money the taxpayers pay to the city of Polk City and provide them with the high-quality services that they expect in return from us. So I'm going to give a quick budget presentation, but I do want to make sure that I give a quick shout out and give credit where credit is due tonight. Thank you to Finance Director Andrew Skinner, who did the majority of the work on this year's proposed budget, including but not limited to entering all of the numbers into the city's new accounting system, into the Department of Management website, and making constant changes to the ever-evolving budget. Thank you to Susan Lawton for putting together today's presentation. Thank you to all the department heads who provide us with their department's needs and requests annually. And thank you to the City Council who have spent hours already working on the proposed budget. Without all of you working together, we wouldn't be able to make this possible. So I'm proposing to the City Council a well-rounded and balanced budget. A balanced budget to me is a budget where your expenses do not exceed your revenue. During today's presentation, you will notice that some of the funds may appear to be negative. This does not mean the city is spending more than we are bringing in, but what happens for some funds, such as capital project funds, is the revenue is brought in during a previous year and then the expenses are spent in the following fiscal year. For this proposed budget, the only negative funds are the capital project funds, which are funds 301 through 312. So just a little bit of good news that I want to highlight with the proposed balanced budget. Our valuations from 2026, which is the current year, have increased. The city's regular taxable valuations increased by 2.65%, and debt service valuations increased by 6.78%. A reminder that the main difference between those two separate taxable valuation numbers is that debt service is a protected levy, which means it is exempt from being captured by tax increment financing districts. This clause in the Iowa Code ensures these tax revenues go to debt service funds rather than funding TIF eligible projects. For the proposed budget, I am recommending the city hold an aggregate levy rate of $11 per 1,000 assessed. This would be the same as the current fiscal year 2026. And the last highlight I want to point out is that we've incorporated all of the City Council priorities from both the capital improvement plan and strategic planning into tonight's proposed budget. So here are some additional budget highlights for you all to review tonight. The proposed budget, total revenue and total expenditures. Total revenue is $19 million. Total expenditures is $21.7 million. Note that this does include capital projects and capital equipment. Of those figures, the proposed operating budget, excluding capital expenses, is $13,603,023. Of that amount, $5,381,951 accounts for general fund expenses. The general fund accounts for all public safety, parks, library, some street expenses, and administration costs. With the proposed budget as presented today, the city would have approximately $111,937 remaining as general fund balance. Given that there will likely be changes with the state legislature this year, I feel comfortable having some flexibility and just want to point that out for you all as the rules are constantly evolving. This graph shows the city's operating revenues for fiscal year 2027. This graph shows the city's operating expenditures for fiscal year 2027. This is all available in the budget packet that is in the City Council's packet this evening, as well as available on the city's website for our residents to read and review. So next I'm going to talk about just some of the proposed city projects and give a quick description of those projects that were in the fiscal year 2027 budget. I'm going to discuss 9 capital projects this evening. Of those 9 projects, 4 have been previously approved projects by the City Council. The first project is the North Trunk Sewer Project. This project incorporates adding a trunk sewer to service the north part of Polk City. The estimated cost of the project is $3.8 million, with $1.8 million budgeted in fiscal year 2027. The Polk City Corridor Studies Project. This project prioritized the 3rd Street Corridor Study and the Town Square Master Plan. The City Council previously consolidated the 2 studies into one single contract and decided to also add Bridge Road to the study area. The total cost of the study is $109,900, and this project has been split between both fiscal years 26 and 27. The former City Hall project, which the council will be further discussing tonight, for fiscal year 2027, we've budgeted an additional $150,000 for additional exterior improvements and demolition at the former City Hall building, also known as the Big Creek Schoolhouse. Our annual street repair project, each year we identify areas throughout the community that need to be repaired, and we identify concrete panels which need to be replaced. For fiscal year 27, we've budgeted $400,000 in street repairs. This is an increase from previous years where we've typically budgeted anywhere between $200,000 and $250,000. We did increase this dollar amount at the request of the City Council to try to get ahead of our street repairs list that is ever growing. Prioritization for repairs will be based on street grade and conditions of the streets. The police station and library schematic, this project has been prioritized for fiscal year 2027 and includes architect schematics for both a new police station and a library addition project. The total cost of these schematic projects is estimated at $60,000. I will just touch really briefly on these 4 projects. These are projects that have been previously authorized by the City Council and incorporated into the fiscal year 27 budget. They will not be complete by July 1st, which is why they have been added to the fiscal year 27 budget. Those projects include the Polk City Junction Trail and Trailhead Project, the Sump Pump Collector Project, the Northside Drive Roundabout and Phase 1 of the Polk City Junction Trail Project, and the Regional Park Phase 1 project. Next, I'm going to talk about the proposed city staffing additions for next fiscal year. For fiscal year 27, I am recommending the addition of the following staff members: 1 full-time paramedic firefighter position, 1 part-time fire department position that would cover 1 12-hour shift every weekend, either Saturday or Sunday, and then also a part-time Parks Department recreation coordinator position. That was a newly created position by the City Council that is in the current budget year and then will also be added for next year. These positions would be in addition to previous staff positions the City Council has already authorized. The city currently has 34 full-time city employees, 38 permanent part-time employees, and 4 to 6 seasonal employees. So I am happy to answer any questions and take any final thoughts on the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget.
So before we do that, Chelsea, I have to apologize because I know Susan is wondering, what is the mayor doing? And I forgot to follow my protocol sheet here that Susan hands out and gives to me. So I don't think we've violated anything significant here. So we're just gonna go back and backtrack for just a minute. So normally what I would have said is it's time to close the regular meeting and open the public hearing on the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget. And I would ask Susan when the notice was published.
I would say April 3rd, 2026.
And then I'd ask you if we had any written comments received for or against the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget.
No, sir.
All right, and then we would move on to our staff report, which we have already had. And from there, we would go to any questions the council has of Chelsea at this time. And I'm hearing none.
No questions. I guess I'll just say for the people that are here and interested, we did spend a decent amount of time on this. It is your money, so if you have questions or feedback, we'd love to hear it.
Okay. So if nothing from council, we will ask if there's any, I think we're good, Chelsea.
I will come sit back down. If there's questions, I will answer them. I am going to get MWA's presentation set up for them next.
Okay, so is there anyone present who wishes to be heard for or against the proposed fiscal year 2027 budget? Seeing no one then, I need a motion to close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting. So a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
And roll call.
Hill?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
And then if you're following your agenda for item 4A1, resolution adopting FY 2027 budget, I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
And roll call.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Hill?
All right, so we're back on track. We have two presentations tonight under item 5. The first is Cassie Riley with Metro Waste Authority. Welcome, Cassie.
Thank you. I am going to do a name change, though. My name is actually Leslie Earlbeck, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at Metro Waste Authority. So we just like to keep everyone on their toes that you don't know which Metro rep you're going to get, but I like to think I'm a good option. So with me is our Vice President of Public Affairs, Kayla Burkett, and this is my first time at your new City Hall, and so congratulations. What a wonderful, beautiful building, and what a great addition to your community. So it's a pleasure to be here, although I have had a long-standing relationship working with Chelsea, and she's been a great partner and representative of the city, and we're just really grateful that Rob has been a long-standing member of our Board of Directors and has been our chair now as his second term. So invite Rob to jump in, anything that I maybe leave out or you want to draw special attention to, but we have prepared a presentation to kind of focus on specifically the impact that Metro Waste Authority has here, right here in Polk City. And so there's some numbers in front of you that you can reference as I speak to the services that we offer. But I always like to point out, proud fact is Metro Waste Authority was the first 28E in the United States. I think there was something about everybody not perhaps wanting a landfill in their backyard that really drove some magic to that agreement. So here we go. So we were formed back in 1969. We have 17 board members who serve on our board, Polk County, and then 16 communities, of course, including Polk City. We were formed to manage garbage. And so at that time, everyone came together and like I said, agreed that one entity managing that waste was really best for our region. And we were solely formed at that point just to manage garbage. And so a proud fact as you look through here to think that in 1969 we would have had one facility here that we're speaking to, and then now to see the evolution. And that evolution is really driven by the fact of understanding that in order to properly manage garbage in the first place, frankly, you have to keep much of that material out of the landfill altogether. And so we can talk about ways that we are continually trying to do that for Polk City residents and beyond. And really the crux of that is we always want to make things as convenient as possible. We want to keep them as inexpensive as possible. And we also want to educate, because if people don't know where those things should belong, then they don't know if they're doing what they should or shouldn't. I should pause for just a second and say, Michael McCoy, our CEO, and I were doing a really great job coming around to all of the communities several years ago and talking about hopefully the value that Metro Waste Authority brings. A lot of times garbage is sort of, it just happens, right? It's like turning on your electricity or flushing your toilet. You take your garbage or your recyclables out, and so there's not a lot of thought typically given to what makes that happen, but I'm really proud that we have about 135 employees that allow us not to think about garbage on a regular basis, and that we can ensure that we are operating in a way that is environmentally sound, and the residents can take good confidence in knowing that these programs exist that we're going to talk through. And so while we started with the landfill, you can see over time we've grown. We have 2 landfills now, 2 transfer stations, a hazardous waste facility, a compost facility. We have 2 can redemption centers. Our central office is located in East Village. And so right here in Polk City, when your garbage is collected, it's going to one of 2 transfer stations. Depending on traffic and some other variables, the hauler can actually determine whether they want that garbage to go to our newer transfer station, which is located in Grimes, or it can go to our central transfer station in Des Moines, which has been there for several decades. And at that point, it takes a longer distance route to the landfill in Mitchellville. So that's where all of your garbage is going. And essentially what transfer stations do is they allow us to haul garbage at a rate that is much reduced to your residents, because there is a central drop-off location at those transfer stations, and they don't have to continually take that garbage once they fill to the landfill. Fun nerdy fact for you is that you can get about 900 homes of garbage in one garbage truck, but at one time that garbage truck can only fill about 450 homes of garbage. And so at some point in that day, there has to be a break where they offload and empty that garbage in order for them to resume collection in that community. So that's your garbage. Your recyclables are going to our recycling center in Grimes, and there you also have an opportunity for some probably more convenient service, like you can purchase compost at that facility, you can dispose of hazardous material at that facility. I'm going to get into those a little bit more specifically, but in light of keeping you moving, since I know your time is very valuable, beyond our facilities, we have a lot of services, and probably those are what we're best known for, is the recycling cart that sits at the end of your curb, or your garbage cart, or if you're using maybe the house side hazardous waste red bin program at your home. So the services are what we're known for. Right here in Polk City, we're serving about 2,350 homes for garbage and recycling collection. We're serving about 110,000 homes overall with that capacity. And we're going to talk about what those programs look like. But we are really, really proud, because of some of the model I talked about earlier. We're able to keep rates really quite low, and especially nationally speaking, when you compare the rates that we are paying for garbage and recycling collection here in the community, there's something that we should be proud of. And I hope that the service that comes along with that is something that's brag-worthy as well. But, like I said, those programs and facilities wouldn't be successful if people didn't know that they exist. And we have, Kayla leads a team of 5 public affairs members. We have a full-time educator on staff. We're going to be working hard over the next year or two to do our best to kind of break into your school district a little bit better. We did do 2 classroom visits or field trips, but we have some opportunities to grow in that area, to get your kiddos to either our facilities or to bring our teacher into your classrooms. We have Google virtual reality glasses that can be brought into the classroom, so if they can't leave the classroom, we can bring our facilities to them. And then we have, at the recycling facility, we have a program that's been very successful, Ready, Set, Recycle, really popular during summer and kiddos breaks. And so invite you to reserve your space, or your kid's space, or grandkid's space. And we've got some summer camps coming up as well. And so it's an award-winning program, and one that we're really, really proud of the innovation that comes along with that. So looking to the community benefit and some of the numbers that specifically pertain to Polk City. When we took over the contract management of garbage, the garbage management back about 5 or 6 years ago, we also really took over the relationship that comes with the hauler that's doing that work. So we're not a hauler ourselves, but we put out the RFP and we hold the haulers accountable to living up to what they said they were going to do, in addition to keeping those rates low. We also took kind of that branch of customer service, if you will, outside of City Hall and brought it into Metro Waste Authority, where we are answering a whole heck of a lot of phone calls. Over 62,000 calls a year are being answered by our customer care team, and we're working towards being able to break down that data a little bit more. So hopefully next year, the following year when I'm here, I'm able to say, this is exactly how many calls we answered for Polk City specifically. But in addition to that, our customer service looks like about 8,000 interactions with a chat bot if you get on our website and just want to answer some questions there. And we also have internalized, rather than outsourcing to a hauler, the cart deliveries and repairs that come with that. That doesn't sound very exciting, but all of these touch points really add up to an overall savings for the program. And we were able to fix about 10,000 carts last year, rather than depending on a third party to do that. We also have a grant program that is made accessible to all of our member communities and nonprofits. And so if you have any environmental work associated with the budget that you're approving, then invite you to give Metro Waste Authority a call and see how we might be able to financially support some of those programs and ideas as well. The curbside programs that we've talked about, the garbage program here in Polk City disposes of over 2,000 tons of garbage every year, and that includes the spring cleanup as well. And then with the recycling program, which is an every other week collection, we dispose of about 352 tons of recyclables through that program. The yard waste that's collected weekly, and that service began the week of April 1st. And so for those of you who want to get out and do yard waste, you're welcome to start that. But the disposal side of the collection program, Compost It, is a curbside collection service that we offered when kind of with that evolution of the best service of the landfill is just keeping some of that material, frankly, out of the landfill. So we're able to collect that yard waste separately through a third-party contract as well. They haul it, they bring it to our compost center, and we turn your yard waste, whether it be vegetative debris, grass clippings, anything of that nature, we turn it into compost, and we are able to sell that as a soil amendment. This evolution of this program in particular is really fun, and I think it speaks to the innovation of our agency. About 15 years ago, if you wanted to purchase compost, which is an alternative to fertilizer, much healthier for the environment, reduces the amount of watering you may need to do with your yard or garden, in order to purchase it, you needed to secure a dump truck, which not everybody has access to. And so over the last several years, we've really worked on making it a more accessible material that people can use. And then a couple of years ago, we actually created our own private label. And so you are now actually able to purchase the locally made compost, Grow Gold compost, at your local True Value or Hy-Vee locations. And that is much more accessible for people who maybe don't feel comfortable renting or driving a dump truck like myself.
And Leslie, just to go back to the curb it, one thing I'll add, I know it's been a couple years since we have gone away from the open recycling that we had for yard waste. And I know that was a tough transition for some people, but quite honestly, we wouldn't have been able to offer what we do now, which is not as open, but is still a feature that, as far as I'm aware, is not available anywhere else in the metro, were it not for the partnership with MWA and their ability to haul that yard waste away at a pretty fair price. So wanted to call out the excellent work there in partnership that I think has served us well over the last 2 years, 3 years, whatever it's been.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. And I mean, that's a great example of, the programs that once serve us, sometimes as a community, we outgrow those, or our residents' demands of higher convenience or an evolution of services comes, Amazon's a great example. When we rolled out those 96-gallon recycling carts, people laughed and thought, I'm never going to be able to fill these. And here we are now with a very successful recycling drop-off program because of what convenience looks like today with it coming to our curb. And so just encourage, Rob, as you're as your representative and Chelsea and other staff, as your city needs evolve, please let us know. I mean, our innovation and evolution of flexibility with our services is one of the things that we're most proud of and look forward to continuing to do that right alongside Polk City. And I didn't do it on purpose, but here's the actual slide that is talking about those recycling drop-offs and some other recycling programs that we're really proud of that you don't really think of, you know, all the time when you think of recycling, but we do have, you all do have 2 recycling drop-off containers here in Polk City, and those have been wildly successful. At times, we've been running our trucks for collection 7 days a week to meet the demands as we work through what's the right number of containers and where should those be. Kind of a fun partnership that we've had with our member communities in the last couple of years has actually come in the form of holiday light recycling, which you cannot put in your curb it recycling cart, but there's a lot of items that just because it can't be recycled through that cart to go to our recycling center, if you keep it with like items, there is an outlet for it. So those recycling lights are a very major nuance at our facility, would shut down facility at places where it would get wrapped up and cause a lot of problems. And so we can, however, though, with partnerships, recycle those. And so around the holiday time, we've put boxes out. And so as you're either pulling out those new holiday lights or you're thinking already, I don't want to use these next year, we're able to recycle those. And so in this last year, we recycled 250 pounds of recycling of those lights. Also, we coordinate with communities to do a free-to-use scrap tire collection here in Polk City. Well, I'm sorry, 1.37 tons overall in the metro is what Metro Waste Authority has collected, but you can continue to look. So kind of at your, I guess that is Polk City, 1.37 tons. Oh gosh, that's a lot. That's impressive. Okay, look at me surprised right here. I'm like, geez, okay. So moving along through the recycling program, another form of that recycling that we have, and you have it right here in your city hall, is our battery drop-off initiative. And it was our goal, this is the first year of this program, and we wanted to recycle 10,000 pounds of batteries in our first year. And here in the first 9 months, we have reached 14,000 pounds. And so just again, the strength of the partnerships and really grateful that when we come to the cities and we say what our next wild idea is, it's met with sometimes appropriate skepticism and curiosity, but in the end, it's serving a much greater good than what you see as you walk into a building. These rechargeable batteries that are in quite literally almost everything now. I mean, a lot of our toys include these rechargeable toothbrushes. I mean, you think of anything that you put on any sort of charger, these batteries are quite dangerous for the trucks that are collecting the material, so from your home or businesses, but also when they arrive at any of our facilities, they're causing fires. And at our recycling facility and at our landfill, we are putting out fires multiple times a week, and typically they are in a place where they are easily to contain, and our staff are very well versed in how to put those out. But right before we celebrated our second anniversary at the recycling facility in Grimes, we had a major fire that put us out of operations for 2.5 months. And so total fires in so far in 2026 is 9, 2025 it was 21, 8 in 2024, and so we can see an increase, and it's largely because of the batteries. And so just really, really appreciate the help that you all are doing to keep those out of the landfill and out of the recycling facility, and look forward to some continuing success. We got an exciting call from Nebraska today, and they were basically wanting to know, who we've used to create those battery boxes, the design, how we've gone about deploying those in our community, and how they've been so successful. And so much of what we talk about, sometimes it's like when it's so close to our face, we don't really have perspective of how really great our community is doing in one of those areas. And a lot of what we're talking about today puts us on a stage on a national level that people are reaching out and wanting to know what's led to that success. So last slide here for you in terms of services, and then we'd open it up to any questions. Hazardous materials are one of those materials that we've learned overall that, in order to manage them the way that is best for our facilities and residents, it's just to keep it out of there altogether. And so our permanent facility is in Bondurant. We have a satellite location that is open twice a month or once a month in Grimes? Once a month. For Saturday of every month, and those have begun for this season, and those are really, really popular, so you don't have to drive to Bondurant to drop those off, but really this is an essential piece of keeping our landfill free of those fires and caring for the environment the best that we can. But there's 88 residents from Polk City that have safely disposed of waste at these facilities, and Metro Waste Authority is providing services in a satellite form for 23 counties across Iowa, and could talk more about the services that we're offering across the state and the advantages of that, but also recognize that you guys have other agenda items to get onto tonight, and so want to be conscientious of your time. So any questions that I can answer?
I want to thank you for coming out tonight. Really appreciate just having this presentation, just to give people the scope of everything that you guys do, and you do it so well that we're able to think very little about it. So it's again, nice to be reminded of just everything that you do start to finish. Very serious question. If you look back at your by the numbers slide, is that how we're supposed to have our wheelie bins? With the wheels facing the curb?
No, I don't know why. No, we were just wondering if someone was going to catch it. Go, actually, they're supposed to be.
That just seems very bizarre to me.
That is, that is a good catch. We do see some people put their carts out that way, and the hauler is willing to accommodate, typically in any form or fashion, if you can get it to the curb. But yes, this would actually be how we would not want it to go to the curb. So thank you. And we have a variety of photos that we keep on hand for different purposes, and I bet the original intent of this picture is what not to do. Any other
I have a
questions?
question.
Yeah.
When people put their plastic water bottles into recycling, are the lids supposed to be on them or not on them?
Yes, you can do either. And the reason that I say that is because typically it's going to get separated anyway. The chances of that really small cap making it all the way through the system to be recycled with that form of plastic is pretty dismal and probably very unlikely. And I say that because if you do screw it on, by the time it's compacted in the recycling cart, and then it gets further compacted as it works its way through the system, it eventually is going to get run over, and it's going to pop that lid off. And so if it's convenient for you to twist the lid on, go ahead, it's not doing any damage. If it's more convenient for you to throw it in the garbage because it's right there, that's usually where it's going to end up anyway. We say anything that's smaller than a credit card size at the recycling facility, it just isn't reasonable to expect that it's going to get captured. We have a mixture of people and technology, including robots at the facility that are grabbing PET, plastic in particular, but the lids are just so small that they're not going to rise to that level. So either one is fine, and they're probably going to end up in the same place.
Okay, well, now we all know. Thank you very much for this handout, too. I think this is just really good information. And thanks to Rob for chairing Metro Waste Authority.
It's an easy gig, and I won't spend a ton of time, but Kayla and Leslie are both great examples of an excellent staff and culture. It wasn't, I think I did volunteer, but it was reluctant at the time. Little did I know what to get into. But as I've learned a ton, and this is the first organization, most companies, or even the city to a certain degree, you're wanting to do better to hand off to the next generation. And MWA is looking 80 or 100 years out, especially with the landfill planning and that level of foresight and all the moving parts on, that same question of does this, that's why the site is whereshoulditgo.com. I got that right.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
It is so tricky, but they are so resourceful in finding ways to make as much recyclable material as we can get. The new facility, newish facility in Grimes was a huge investment, and the staff has capitalized on that. And then even at the landfill, you know, there's different ways to get out there, and the folks out there are so good at identifying something that can be isolated and finding a purpose for that it's just encouraging to see that, you know, in a perfect world, would we be putting anything in the ground? No, but here we are, and to do that as carefully as possible is really the main message that MWA reaches over and over, and they do a really good job at it. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Leslie?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Been a pleasure. I appreciate your time.
Our second presentation is from Mike Venema, Iowa Law Enforcement Accreditation Program.
Mayor Carson, council members, and citizens of Polk City. Tonight, we celebrate an important milestone for your community and recognize the outstanding work of the Polk City Police Department. Your police department has voluntarily undertaken and achieved accreditation through the Iowa Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, a challenging process that reflects a deep commitment to professionalism, transparency, and continuous improvement. This is more than a certificate, it's a recognition of excellence in modern policing. Accreditation assures that the department follows current professional standards, delivers law enforcement services effectively and efficiently, and reduces risk and liability for both the agency and its members. The process formalizes key management procedures, builds staff confidence, and strengthens public trust. It also provides an outside independent validation that the department is meeting high standards and is committed to ongoing evaluation and improvement. By earning this distinction, the Polk City Police Department demonstrates that it has a strong set of written directives, has welcomed outside critique, has achieved a significant accomplishment, and is committed to regularly updating its policies and procedures. Chief Sepker and all members of the department, your professionalism and dedication reflect a great credit upon the city. On behalf of the Iowa Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, congratulations and thank you for your commitment to your profession. Chief, would you like to come up? Would you like for a backdrop, the logo or flags or? How do we do that?
Right.
Right, thank you.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Mike from the Iowa Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, and thank you all to our great police department and all the great work that they do serving Polk City and its citizens. So with that, we will move on to item number 6 on our agenda, which is our public comment period. This is the time and place for comments for any item other than those that are a public hearing. Susan, have we had any cards filled out and presented tonight? Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a public comment? If not, then we will move on to item number 7, which is the consent items. I'll ask for a motion and a second to approve our consent items, please.
so moved.
Second?
And roll call.
Savage?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Moving on to item number 8, we have several business items before the council tonight. Business item A is a resolution awarding contract for Regional Park Phase 1. We have some questions on the part of the council. We would, do you need to lead the conversation at all, or shall we go directly to asking for a manager or a representative from Graphite Construction to please come to the podium so the council can ask questions? Thank you very much. And will you please introduce yourself?
Russ Carew. I'm the owner of Graphite.
Thank you, Russ, for being here. All right, so we have a series of questions. They'll be in no order from the council. I think Jeff Savage was going to begin.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Some of these are just, yes, no. Feel free to add as much context that you want to them. First question, your company submitted a bid for the Regional Park Phase 1, correct?
Yes.
As part of the bid evaluation process, your company has responded to some questions regarding the company's litigation history, correct?
Yes.
We have information regarding a number of litigation cases your company has been involved with. Can you provide additional information about the nature of these complaints?
There's kind of two sides to litigation. We've got some owner lawsuits and subcontractor lawsuits, and then we had some disputes. The owner lawsuits, I think I mentioned in the previous council meeting, are about 3% of our total volume that we've done over the years, so it's a pretty small percentage. I think the national average, when I looked it up, is somewhere between 10 and 30% we've seen on large-scale projects, which is basically all we do. So we have a very low percentage when you look at the owner lawsuits. Specifically, we have, I think, 3 pending cases right now with owners. 2 of them are public, 1 of them's a private. The private one is very complicated. Basically, it was a condominium complex, and the engineer and architect, it's a 4-story building. The engineer and the architect forgot to design the weight of the 2nd and 3rd floors of the property. And so structurally, the whole building was falling down as we were constructing it. So we stopped work, there were change orders, they recognized the mistake. We then gave them a quote to shore up the structure so structurally sound. They paid for a portion of it, not all of it. They wanted to save some money because there were budget issues with the designer's insurance and how much money they had left on it. So we finished the project based upon that scope, and then at the end of the project, we're still not happy. So the owner sued the architect and then sued us. So we're kind of brought along on that one. We have a dispute with Des Moines Area Community College. We had a large $21 million project with them that had $1.5 million in changes, 600 RFIs, which, just to let you know, 600 RFIs is huge. That's like 5 times the quantity we would see for a project of that size. And there were a bunch of changes throughout. The project had a bunch of different delays, and during the course of it, it happened during COVID. So it was one of the projects where you were struggling to get materials and manpower and all that from 5 years ago. That one has not gone through its process yet. We're still waiting for the trial date, and we're trying to set up a mediation, I think, towards the end of the summer to try and see if we can find a middle ground with everyone. The only other one that we have active with an owner is the city of Oskaloosa. We had a $30 million project with them that was 2 components. It was a YMCA, and then it was an early childhood edition. The early childhood edition, the whole project was supposed to be done over like a 1.5 year period. The early childhood edition, and this was also in COVID, literally, it bid 3 days before the whole COVID thing happened and the world shut down. So we had minor delays that we dealt with for early childhood, got that done, I think, a couple weeks after the original substantial completion, but still plenty of time for them. The crux of the issue is that there's a pool. There are 2 pools on the project, one that we fully built and then one that we half constructed. The engineer / architect on the project said it was the one half was constructed incorrectly. We brought in experts to look at it. I looked at it personally. I didn't understand where they were coming from. So we brought in experts, 6 different engineers. They all looked at it and said, we don't see an issue here. There are minor, normal things that came up on it, and that was it. So we could not come to terms with the owner. And after going back and forth for 1.5 years, the lawsuit was filed on that, and that one's still pending. We do have some sub lawsuits. That kind of happens in this industry, unfortunately. Not saying I'm proud of them and I'm happy about them, but they did happen. And we're working through those. I think there's one, maybe two of them that are active that haven't been dealt with. Sub lawsuits, like I kind of mentioned in the last meeting, we've done $836 million worth of work in our 25 years. And so when you have that much work you do, and we do a lot of public work, you tend to get sometimes subcontractors not used to working with, and they could be new subcontractors or they could be existing subs, but sometimes they go through a bad spat, and so you have issues on projects. And our goal is always to try and work with our owners and our clients and architects to try and get our projects done. And sometimes when the sub's failing or having issues, we've got to figure a workaround for them. And oftentimes those subs don't see the problems or they don't want to recognize the problems. And so that's where some of these things come in. We try and work with them at the end of the day and get things done. And sometimes it just doesn't work out. So that's what I would say. But in general, we have a very, I think, low rate of lawsuits with owners. We don't have very many of those in comparison to the projects we do and what nationally you see. And then we do have some sub lawsuits. I did not think of or quantify what the percentage was with them because those are outside of the owner's perspective, I guess I view it. Yes, they're involved in a project, but they don't directly affect the owner, especially in public projects, because the sureties that are involved in the bonds and the 573 claims, they don't affect your ability to get the project done and get that moved on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So let's move on, council, and continue asking questions. Somebody want to take question 4?
Well, this kind of goes into what you'd mentioned about the subcontractors, and you'd mentioned, obviously, you're going to have to use subcontractors here if you were to get this. Any of the subcontractors that you currently may or may not have, well, that you would have litigation with, are they a big portion of what you see would have been done out here, or you would have used those subs for this project?
No. So the subcontractors we're proposing to use on your guys' project are subcontractors that we've worked with for many years and have a really great track record with. The biggest subcontractor on it is the concrete paving contractor, and that's Freedom Flatwork. The gentleman was here at the last meeting, actually who owns it. I think he does quite a bit of work for Polk City, also is my understanding, or has done it in the past. So he's the biggest sub. He's actually one of the guys I talk with frequently outside of work about stuff. So we don't have any issues there. The utility contractor is the second biggest. The gentleman who actually owns it used to work for us at one point. We had our own grading, and I think I explained this last time. We do our own grading, and we do some site utilities. He used to actually be a foreman for us, and we downsized the site utility side back in 2016, and so he started a separate business. And so he's worked for us since basically he left. So we have no issues there. Other than that, it's a mason I've worked with for 20 years. Electrician is Van Monen Electric, which again, they're probably the biggest electrician in the state, and they do 70% of our projects. So I have no issues with any of the subs and have a very strong track record with most of them.
So can you talk to us about some of the litigation that has involved untimely or substandard work by the subcontractors though?
Do you mean with the subs or on the owner side? Because I view them as two separate sides.
Subs.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a unusual one we had. I had a subcontractor file suit on us 3 years ago. They were a sub who was strictly supposed to put in parking lot signs on a project. And they ended up suing us and said that they did $25,000 worth of extra work. And I was like, okay, well, that's news to me. We didn't have a change in the documents. We didn't have any work that we asked for extra. So we went out to the job and we actually literally took the set of blueprints and we walked around and said 1, 2, 3, and we counted every sign they put in. They actually put in one less sign than what the plan said. And they ended up 3 months ago, finally dropping the suit after 3 years. So that's kind of the stuff we deal with sometimes, Rob. It's not always, some massive problem. It's sometimes people just don't want to listen and work together and try and come to resolution. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what our goal is.
Council, question number 5.
So you've already said you're going to be utilizing some subcontractors. I think, Rob, you actually probably touched on most of number 5 already. So I'm going to actually move on to number 6.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. So you guys supervise all the work that, for the projects your company's awarded, correct?
Yes,
And you're responsible for all the work that's done on that contract?
we are.
Okay. So the bonds your company submits for public improvement projects require security and indemnification of the bond company in the event that the bond is forced to pay on the bond, correct?
Yes,
In the event of adverse judgments in those pending cases, your company will be obligated to make the bond companies whole for any losses, correct?
we would.
You want to take number 10, James?
Okay. You've already mentioned one of these, the Oskaloosa YMCA project. Any other contracts with your company that have been terminated by the owner in the last 5 years?
We had the DMAC project was.
Okay.
Have one with West Des Moines Schools. However, we came to a completion agreement on that and completed that project. So that one was very unique. That's actually one of the sub lawsuits we have.
What made it unique?
So the project got substantially completed. We were working on punch list. There were issues with it was an addition and then an HVAC retrofit of a school. The addition got done, the HVAC retrofit got done. The problem that happened is that they kept having issues where the mechanical system would function. They have a BAS. Do you guys know what a BAS is? I assume, okay. So a building automation system. So you guys have that here. I assume if I could see a thermostat, yeah. So all of the thermostats in the building connect to an off-site computer system that you can control off-site, the temperature in the room, the humidity, and you can adjust all this stuff. So on that project, we turned it over, everything was handed over and it was working. And then they kept repeatedly having issues where they couldn't get the system to work on at their off-site location. So we eventually found out what was happening after 6 months of investigation, that the building was actually losing power. And so the power was getting dropped off and we had to do voltage testing and go figure that out. And so anyways, we eventually found out that the building was losing power sporadically and it was actually frying parts of the equipment. And so we had to go replace pieces numerous times. And then eventually we got to the point where we tracked everything down, because originally it was this issue and then this issue, and we kind of started like this and funneled it down. And so we got it figured out after about 6 months.
I actually want to go back to the sub issue. So are all the ones that you're going to be using on our projects ones that you've used in the past?
Yes,
Okay, and do any of those have litigation?
no. No, we have a really good group of subs.
Anything about Adair County Hospital? I don't mean this to be a loaded question. Did you do work with the Adair?
Yes, we did.
Okay, was there any litigation there?
There's not any litigation there.
None
No, it's not.
at all? Okay.
So let's just continue moving on with our questions. James, why don't you just continue on?
Okay. All right, you were asked to submit a list of the company's last 5 completed projects. On the project for Camp Dodge, you indicate that it was completed on time and with very minimal changes.
Yes.
We have received information from the owner that the project was to be completed May the 29th, 2025, but substantial completion wasn't until November 21, 2025. Can you explain the discrepancy?
It was turned over in October of '25, and we had told them it would be turned over in October of '25 because there were a few changes, and there was a material delay in getting some shower pans. The shower pans were a 14-week lead time. They were not shown on the plans, and so that process to get the shower pans delayed the completion of the project, and there was a minor change order for it. Because the whole thing was just some locker rooms, basically.
Okay. The project's at final completion now, though, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And Camp Dodge did just award us last week another project. So if there was an issue with Camp Dodge, we would not have got awarded a project that was double that size.
Okay. Question 12? Rob, you wanted to
On
ask?
the project for Widener, you indicated it was completed on time. We have received information from the owner of the project that the bid was an 8-month project, but took a total of 16 months to complete. Can you explain that discrepancy?
Yeah, that project had a lot of changes, a lot of changes. The project was not 8 months, it was 10 months, or let's see, started in November, was supposed to be done in September. So that would have been almost a year, so 10 months. And we turned it over in early December. We had, it was supposed to be historical renovation. The entire renovation work was supposed to be non-structural for the majority of it. We ended up having to take out and replace entire sections of the exterior wall because they were falling down. That alone added about 90 days to the project. The roof was supposed to stay in place. We ended up having to tear the entire roof off and replacing it because it was a 130-year-old building. It was 1885 it was built, so I guess 145-year-old building. They revised layouts inside the building. There was a lot of changes that happened on that project. And I mean a substantial amount of structural changes that went through that process. So there were changes, and those changes increased the substantial completion date.
Okay.
The timeliness is of utmost importance for us on this project. Do you have any reason to believe your company cannot complete the project on time?
Absolutely not. I was hoping if it was awarded the last meeting, we would actually be done. I think I sent a schedule. Chelsea, did I send you a schedule, I believe? Initially,
I'll have to defer to our city engineer
okay.
if we received a schedule or not.
Jason did.
Okay.
We did.
Thank you.
So yeah, we were anticipating getting the project done actually a couple months early. Because we thought we could get through a lot of it this year.
The contract will require work to be performed a minimum of 5 days a week. Can your company adhere to this requirement?
Yeah. Realistically, as long as there's not an issue, we'll probably work 6 days a week.
Given the nature of this project, do you have any reason to expect the change orders do you have any reason to expect any change orders on the project?
I mean, not that I know of. The documents are pretty straightforward. I mean, if there's some unforeseen something or another I can't think of off the cuff, I mean, most of this is grading in parking lots and soccer fields. So, I mean, that stuff is straightforward. There shouldn't be any large changes or anything along those lines. The building itself, there aren't really that many finishes in it. You're talking about block walls on the restrooms. You're talking about a roof structure with some specialty soffit material, but that's really the gist of it. So the building itself doesn't have much to it. So I would say, no, there isn't. I don't foresee a lot of changes on this project unless you guys want to make changes.
Can I ask a side to that real quick and just kind of go along those lines? You mentioned a couple projects that had lots of change orders, right? And so this one, you're not anticipating it. What kind of helps you determine in a project what project's gonna have a ton of change orders and what's not gonna have very many? Like the ones that had a ton, did you anticipate you're gonna have a bunch?
So when we bid a job, we don't bid a job hoping for change orders. I'll be honest, I really don't like them. I don't even want them because at the end of the day, you guys want a project done on time, right? That's what everyone cares about, on budget and on time. A change order generally, unless it's a request that's done early, is generally something that comes up that you're not anticipating. And so if you're not anticipating something, then you have to fit that into what you're already trying to do, if possible, and sometimes you can't and sometimes you can. So we don't want to have change orders on projects. I don't look at a job and like, ooh, I'm gonna get 1 million change orders on that, let's go bid that. That's actually a really bad business decision for a contractor, because then you're gonna be change ordering people to death and it's just dumb, because you don't really make any money. We spend more time pricing change orders and talking about them than we do actually making money on them. So it's better to not have them at all. So how do we know if a project's gonna have change orders? Some of the nature of projects sometimes is like that, you know, like a historic renovation, like that Widener project. You're gonna come up with stuff, it's a historic renovation. There's gonna be stuff that just no one knows about. On this project, on your guys' project specifically, it's a clean site. There's a bunch of normal details we see all the time and have built constantly. We've worked with the Snyder a ton, so we have confidence in that their documents are accurate. And then we've gone through on this project specifically, we went through and spent a lot of time on it to make sure that we knew the ins and outs of the project. So do I anticipate a bunch of change orders? No. Did I bid this job thinking there'd be change orders? No. That would be my answer. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Russ, those are all of the council's questions. Unless the council has any other questions, we want to thank you for providing the answers that you did. And you can go ahead and be seated then. And we're going to move on with the business item A, which is a resolution awarding contract for Regional Park Phase 1. In order to do that, I would need a motion and a second from the council. Is that the direction that we want to move on this?
I think you did a good job of advocating for your company. I'm just not comfortable moving ahead with what we've got. Before I make a motion, to get some sort of nod, but were I to make a motion, it would be to reject all bids and rebid.
I would second Rob's.
So we have that as a motion and a second. And the motion, Susan,
Got it. Sarchet?
Yes.
you want to read it back?
Okay, so to reject the contract as,
Reject all the bids and rebid the project.
Okay. And so we have a motion and a second on that, and we'll ask, go ahead.
Can there be any more conversation before a vote?
Well,
Sure.
I know I didn't phrase it very well, but that's how I was trying to phrase it, so yes, from my perspective.
What else from the council?
I was just going to thank Russ for coming up. Also, to Rob's point, our goal isn't to, just ask a bunch of questions. We're just trying to advocate for those folks that pay for, are the stewards. We're the stewards of the community, and we want to make sure that we do the due diligence we can, and we're comfortable with the decisions we make. So, I just have some, thoughts I wanted to give to you. I heard, well, I won't go into more, but thank you for coming in. I agree with Rob that we need to feel comfortable with this. I'm not going to approve a contract without feeling comfortable with the contractor. So that's all I have. Go ahead.
So before you come back, we'll have James.
Just with the amount of hesitancy that I'm hearing right now, I just want the council's opinion on exploring getting a construction management group to sign on with us in the near future before we put this out for bid again if we are in fact going to reject all bids.
So tell us a little bit about what you're thinking.
Well, just from my experience on school board before, working through multiple projects, some without a construction management group and some with, we ended up hiring a DCI group to work with us. And there is an added expense in doing that, but it also could potentially, when we go back to bid, put our minds at ease a little bit more to have those representatives that can be the experts on behalf of the city and the council in working with the potential winning bidder in the future. That makes sense?
And they would do a lot of the due diligence work as well. I mean,
Just exploring if we are going this route, is that a potential?
I think it is.
Council?
I think it's good.
Yeah, certainly worth looking at if it's a best practice for some of these larger projects. I mean, the numbers are the driver, so like, I don't want to commit to doing that for this or anything going forward, but I definitely want to hear more about it.
Yeah, I guess all I want to say is, again, thank you for, defending your company. You have every right. Where we've came and where we are today with this project for the park, I feel like it's my responsibility to do the extra due diligence to ensure that this is done correctly the first time. If it's going to delay this by a few months, if it's going to cost a little bit more, so be it. We just got to make sure that, we hit a home run on this. So yeah, I would agree, James, with entertaining looking at engaging a project management company.
So Chelsea, if we were to do this, where would we find the funds for it?
I think I need to do some follow-up on this and bring you some information back, but if you're gonna consider that, I think you just make it part of the project.
When it's rebid?
Yeah, so I think what I would propose and I would suggest is that we try to aim for having another discussion on this topic at the next council meeting so that we can keep this project moving. I could probably get some information on construction management within the next week or two, and I'd anticipate bringing that back at the April meeting. I would like to coordinate with Snyder and Associates on, do we want to bid out the same exact project? Do we want to split it into more than one single project? I will need to coordinate with them on that, and then we can work on a potential new timeline for bidding the project.
Chelsea, I will add, we will have to make some sort of change. You cannot bid the exact same project. There will be some change to the construction documents if it were to be.
Can you clarify? Is
Yeah,
there like
Council, why don't you come to the microphone?
Can you clarify like how much percentage of the change is required?
There's not a percentage change, it has to be a material change. So, I'm not as familiar with the park and site development side, but what I would tell you is, so like, the best example I have is if you reject all bids on a DOT job, you can't just change a few notes and, rebid basically the same project. You have to have made a change that either alters a bid item, it changes the character. So did you add a certain finish? Did you change the format? I think what we've discussed internally is potentially splitting it into a building and a site. I think that presents some challenges, but I think that is a way that you could change the characteristics of it, as well as you may change the pool of contractors which are interested in the site component that aren't particularly interested in running a building project. So that's kind of what we've talked about internally. I don't want to commit to that at this point, but that's the kind of change we're talking about. It can't be change 4 notes and re-put it out there. It's got to be something that changes some sort of biddable characteristic about the project.
Makes sense.
So I'd like to evaluate that and have conversations with Snyder and Associates and see what would make sense. But I'd anticipate having some sort of update at the next council meeting and us having the conversation on rebidding the project relatively soon. from what I've heard from you all, is we'd like to possibly consider this so that construction could begin yet this summer.
Okay, thank you, Travis. So Russ, you would ask to have a follow-up comment? Oh, okay. Okay, once again, thank you for appearing here tonight before the council. So we have before us a resolution to reject all bids and rebid the project with the addition of a project manager. Are we all understanding that correctly, that that is the motion?
With the potential.
Yeah, I think it's just to reject all bids and rebid the project, period.
Okay, so we'll take off the addition of the project manager.
And I'm not saying I'm against the project manager piece, I just think that's a separate decision from,
And you made the motion before I brought it up.
Yes, that's true. So we have before us a motion to reject all bids and rebid the project. So, we've had a motion on that already, and we've had a second already too. So we would just simply move ahead to roll call.
Savage?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
yes.
So then moving on to business item B, third and final reading of ordinance 2026-200, amending chapter 25, city manager, section 25.04 duties, purchasing. I don't think we need a presentation on that since this is third and final reading, so I'll ask for a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Item C, third and final reading of ordinance 2026-300, amending chapter 58, urban chickens, section 58.04, zoning districts allowed. Again, this is the third and final reading. Let's move on to a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Dvorak? Hill?
Item D, second reading of ordinance 2026-500, amending chapter 155, building code. Cody has something to say.
The option on there to waive the third reading, really the only reason is our online codification gets updated this month. If we have this the last reading at the next meeting, we won't meet that deadline. And then it would be pushed to July, I believe it is, Susan said. So just kind of in alignment, trying to get that up on our website sooner. It's not the end of the world if you decide not to. That's just the reason for the ask, so.
But you had mentioned, Cody, that most of the other surrounding towns had already adopted this, correct?
They're mostly active,
Okay.
And no feedback.
not outside of the normal adjustment periods to it, so. And like I said, we're gonna have kind of that 6-month implementation period anyway, so this just gets it up visible sooner. That way there's less confusion, so.
A lot of people in town spend time looking at building code, so I'm glad to hear this.
All right, so before the council is the optional waiving of the third and final reading. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion on the second reading, approving the second reading of ordinance 2026-500.
Yes, and roll call on that.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Hill? Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
I'll make the recommendation to waive the third and final reading.
And a second, and roll call.
Otis?
Yes.
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Hill?
Okay, item E, update on Big Creek Schoolhouse repairs. Chelsea?
I'm going to give the report on this tonight, and then I'm going to ask Nick Furness if he can answer any technical questions that you may have of me. So with the demolition work on the old schoolhouse, old city hall project, we've run into some unexpected issues which are outlined in the memo that I've prepared for you tonight. The city council had previously authorized $68,500 as a maximum not to exceed on the project. And given the unforeseen circumstances, we're asking for you to adjust that up to $85,000 so that we can finish the exterior portion of the project. In your packet or in the memo for tonight is a proposed budget that you can refer back to if you have questions on this. I do also want to provide an update for the public on the project and why it has stalled over the last 2 months. In February, we demolished the northern lean-to structure on the building. When the demolition occurred, it became apparent that the sill plate was rotting and needed to be looked at. We called the same structural engineer we had previously used on the building evaluation, Tomatich Engineering, to come take a look at the sill plate. His recommendation was for us to repair the northern side of the building sill plate. At that time, or since that time, we've really struggled to get quotes from contractors for the project, although we do not know what condition the sill plate is in on the south side or the west side of the building. We would like to continue to obtain quotes on repairing both the north side and the full building. We believe the project will be significantly expensive and could be its own separate project. I'd like to continue to work on obtaining quotes for this project, and since Mike Schulte's retirement, Nick Furness is going to take over managing the project and being the lead on the project and obtaining additional information. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but the request from the council tonight is to increase the not to exceed amount so that we can finalize the exterior improvements project.
We can still blame Mike for things, okay.
Nick, anything to add?
Nope, she nailed it there, unless you guys have questions.
Questions of Nick? Questions of Nick? Chelsea?
How much of our original budget on this have we already spent? And what work is still outstanding, other than the new things outlined here?
If you look at Andrew's spreadsheet and if you look at, well, I was going to say cost incurred. We've spent very close to $68,500, if not slightly over that amount.
I think to Chelsea's point, it's going to be a separate project before it's all said and done, because it's just what happens, unfortunately.
I think we kind of anticipated this too. You start digging into an old building and you're going to find issues. And that's why when we came to the council back in February with, a little bit of a buffer in our budget, we anticipated that there were going to be some things. We just didn't anticipate they would be this big.
Is this a conservative figure?
I think this is what it takes to just get the project done, to get siding and the windows and the exterior looking good for events on the square this spring and summer. I think we still need to have a conversation on the foundation. And then, as I mentioned in the memo, you've got $150,000 placeholder for additional exterior work and or demolition of the south addition, depending on what the council decides they want to do.
From my perspective, the trend line is very concerning, but for what we're doing tonight, a $17,000 increase on one of the most visible things in a season where we use it more than others seems like kind of a slam dunk. Now, if we're finding difficulty finding the right people, I think this is important to do right, and I don't know if you want to share from the Historical Society how it's going and some of the frustrations, but we started this project. I think we got to finish it. I hate the fact that anything costs more, but if we're going to spend $17,000 more on something, it'd be nice to have the most valuable historic building we've got in town.
James, you were going to say something, I thought? Or?
I was just ready to make a motion to approve.
Okay, so if we're done discussing, let's go ahead and make a motion to approve resolution to authorize repairs on Big Creek Schoolhouse not to exceed $85,000.
So moved.
And second.
Second, did you want not to put you on the spot?
This 85, that doesn't include any sill repair, right?
Those are separate projects. Roll call?
Sarchet?
Yes.
Savage?
Yes.
Dvorak?
Yes.
Hill?
Yes.
Otis?
Yes.
Moving on to item F, discussion of CIWW water usage plan changes. Chelsea?
Okay, I'm going to make this as quick as possible. For you all tonight is information only. The city council does not need to make any decisions on this matter, but should be aware of the proposed changes being made to the Central Iowa Water Works water use plan. Central Iowa Water Works had adopted a water use plan back in 2024 before CIWW was fully established. Since that time, there has been a need to reevaluate the practices identified in the plan and make some changes to the plan. Most of the proposed changes are related to feedback received after last year's Stage 3 mandatory lawn watering ban that you all may recall was in effect all of last summer, or a good portion of last summer. So I'm going to go through the proposed changes in the plan really briefly. The major changes are that the plan identifies multiple different stages of the water use plan and who has the final authority to declare the various different phases and stages. The amendment changes that the CIWW Board of Trustees will have the authority to declare stages. This is a change from the previous model where the technical committee held the authority. The technical committee will make a recommendation to the CIWW Board of Trustees. The updated plan also identifies that the stages will be implemented in chronological order from 0 to 4. The Board of Trustees may consider modifications or exceptions to the plan at any time. Each member agency is required to have a designated primary contact to ensure consistent communication and execution of required actions. I have down that this will be our water operator, but I don't know that we've actually decided that.
So either.
Okay. The changes also incorporating emergency management partners and other regional stakeholders in communications of the plan, so they are aware of the different stages and which stages have been implemented. Stages have been restructured, renamed, and assigned color designations, which I like. I think that's brilliant. Those stages are clearly identified in the draft plan document and range from Stage 0 to Stage 4 and include: Stage 0 is water conservation, annual encouragement of water usage best practices. It's like an educational campaign taking place annually in the months of February and March. Stage 1 is a water watch, and it is a request for voluntary 25% reduction in lawn watering. Stage 2 is water alert, and that is a request for voluntary 50% reduction in lawn watering. Stage 3 is the water warning, mandatory lawn watering prohibited. Stage 4 is water emergency, reduction in demand to the lowest level possible to meet public health and safety standards. Stage 0 is an initial stage which has been incorporated for annual implementation, as I mentioned, and will take place in February, March of each year. Specific provisions are established addressing violations of the water use plan. All participating entities are being asked to amend their ordinances to have similar language. What we ran into last summer was you had 12 founding entities for Central Iowa Water Works, and we all had different ways of handling violators. So Central Iowa Water Works has asked us to all shore up our language. They've given us some sample language to incorporate into our ordinances. That sample language is that violators would be given notice of the mandatory stages, and if compliance is not met within a 48-hour period, their water will be shut off. And
What stages was that, sorry? So
this
start
would
on
be
stage
this would be
0.
for Stage 3
So
for mandatory.
Stage 3 and 4 have an enforcement component.
Yes, yes. That's a good question. Once their water is shut off, there will be a penalty for turning it back on. We're proposing $150 because that's what's in our code currently. So this ordinance is the matter the city council will need to consider and possibly adopt. And we will have this on the April 27th city council agenda. And it will mirror the proposed changes being requested by Central Iowa Water Works. In all honesty, our ordinance requires very few changes. We had similar language. We have to add in the 48-hour period and just a little bit of language on the turning off of water. So you'll have that before you at the next meeting, and I will send that out ahead of time so that you can review it prior to the April 27th meeting. Last, though, major change for the plan, golf courses, splash pads, sod, and seed. The new amendment to the plan allows for these to continue during stage 3 with the requirement that they limit use to the minimum necessary to maintain plant health and ensure safe playing conditions. One of the issues we ran into last summer was that those entities were not identified in the water use plan, and so it was just very gray. But those are the major changes. You have a memo from Tammy Madsen in your packet. She's the executive director for CIWW, and she also thoroughly goes through the proposed changes to the water use plan. The Board of Trustees is going to consider adopting the amended water use plan at their meeting next week. And just a reminder, Nick Otis is our representative for Central Iowa Water Works. And if you have any feedback for him, this would be your opportunity to share that feedback.
Anything from council? That was a lot of information.
So I know you haven't been doing it for a while, Nick, but to unfairly put you on the spot, what I think that I'm reading here is a response to what happened last summer and kind of a lessons learned on what could be done better. And
Absolutely. These are largely measures to correct missteps and make clarifications so that we don't have all these gray areas. We don't have member communities that are out of step with each other and how they're reacting to a water shortage, to a nitrate spike or a plant going down or any other instance where we would have to limit water usage.
so I guess I'm a little bit hesitant to cede a chunk of our autonomy in these ordinances to a regional approach, even though it's probably appropriate here, unless that organization is kind of taken seriously lessons learned, because I think there were some structural problems with what they did, but a lot of the problems were how they executed on that plan. So if you're further establishing what the plan is and communicating it better, great, but I just, some sort of assurance that, last summer was rough and we're trying to get better and learn lessons. And I know that's not fair because you weren't even on last summer, I don't think, so, but from your perspective, how would you respond to that?
I think the first question I have back for you is what authority are you afraid that we're ceding?
Well, the amount of turning people's water off in 48 hours is pretty quick, which I don't think we can do now under any circumstances, right?
Emergency circumstances, the Public Works Director has authority to shut someone's water off.
Okay.
And I think this would be in alignment with an emergency circumstance.
I guess that was my question too, just as ignorance. Wasn't authority ceded when you join the group? Because doesn't that group get to decide what actually happens instead of
In principle, but not in practice. And I'm trying to, again, if we've got egregious people and we can offer some discretion here, if somebody's on vacation and they've got an automatic system going, are we gonna hold them to account as somebody who's home and just wants a green lawn and they don't care?
Right, but principle and practice, I guess that's my question. And excuse me that I'm honestly asking you because I don't know. So if a municipality, a community would not agree to it,
What does it mean?
and there was an emergency, wouldn't they limit water to that community anyways?
Probably. Larger entities don't like it when smaller ones snub their nose at them. So I'm not saying we have grounds to push back on any of this.
Okay.
I'm just asking the question about.
And
making
they're
sure they're doing-
legitimately, I'm just asking.
Yeah, no, I get it, and it's a good discussion. I just I'm trying to vet the authenticity of the change, which with the transition is, again, and I'm directing this at you, Nick, and that's probably not fair, but I'm just trying to make sure that the lessons have been learned and they're applying them to then be able to, for us to greater trust that it's gonna be different going ahead.
I think the amount of time that they have spent both in the technical committee and between the Board of Trustees, they've thought this through as best as they possibly can and worked out this the best way. To your point, I could understand wanting to have flexibility. Yeah, you're gonna have somebody that goes on vacation with their sprinklers on, and their water's still gonna need to be shut off at some point if they can't respond to the problem. Whether or not we have the discretion to fine them at that point in time to get their water turned back on, that may be something worth discussing. I don't have a problem thinking about having additional flexibility in there, but the purpose of it, the halting of inappropriate water use, does need to be there.
I was just pleased to see that you have 4 stages of voluntary agreement to this, to give people a heads up way ahead of time that, hey, we're trending in this direction. Obviously, nobody wants to get to the enforcement part.
And that's an unfortunate thing that happened last year, is that nitrate spike happened so fast that we had to go from stage 1 where we were starting to see it creep up to, oh my God, we're way over the standard now and we've got to do something. And there's really nothing we can do besides continue to build out capacity, which is a very slow process. So we are still going to, I imagine, at some point in the future, run into those same kinds of issues where it goes from 0 to 60 without any real easing into it.
Okay, item F was just a discussion item, so there's no action that needs to be taken on that. But we can move on to item number.
Well, sorry, Steve, real quick, it's related but not explicitly connected to this. I know in talking to, because where I thought we were going with this is the billing, and it sounds like that's the next meeting. So as a heads up to the rest of the council, and I guess just getting some feedback. So we had our water and sewer billing based on the structure that Des Moines Water Works had implemented up until last year, whenever we switched to Central Iowa Water Works. We did, but when it changed, the billing methodology, and the prime example is the irrigation rates. We have very much higher irrigation rates compared to water rates because we were penalized for peak usage days, which we could isolate as the irrigation high usage days. That's no longer a Central Iowa Water Works structure, and we've not updated our billing to match how they bill us as an entire city. So what I would like to do is to reflect the total number isn't gonna change, but how we bill, I think, does need to be adjusted to align to the change from Des Moines to Central Iowa Water Works. So not something that we have to talk about tonight, but I also don't want PFM to do a lot of work if that's something that I'm the only one that people see interest in making that change. So
I guess I'm not sure
As long as Chelsea
what the numbers
understands
on the
what you're
page.
We will have water rates and sewer rates as a discussion item at the next meeting. So I think that would be the appropriate time to talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 9 then, which is Mayor Proclamations. A is National Library Week. Be it resolved that I, Mayor Steve Carchin, proclaim April 19th through 25th, 2026 as National Library Week. During this week, I encourage all residents to visit their library, explore its resources, and celebrate all the ways that the library helps our community find joy. The second mayor proclamation concerns Arbor Day in the city of Polk City. The dates for that are April 24, 2026. And I urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And I urge all citizens to plant trees. And I really do urge all of our citizens to have trees in their front yards to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. So those are our proclamations. So that done, we will move on to item number 10, which is reports and particulars. And we will begin with staff. Anything from staff? Yes, Travis.
So I wanted to provide council with an update on the Northside Drive intersection improvement projects. I was actually out on the site about a half hour before this meeting. And the contractor plans to begin shifting traffic onto the temporary pavement, so east of where the existing travel lanes are, beginning at 10:30 tomorrow. That has been coordinated with the North Polk School District, so they are aware of that. And we are avoiding the bus times specifically for that reason. What you may see during that period of time is you may see some flaggers out there into single lane traffic, because as part of that shift, they will be doing pavement marking removing plus temporary pavement marking, as well as transitioning of traffic signals or traffic control. So I wanted to make council and the watching public aware that there may be some more significant delays in that intersection during the middle part of tomorrow. But the full intent is by the time school lets out, that you will be shifted partially onto the temporary pavement, partially onto the existing pavement, so that they can get started on the west half of that intersection.
And complaints about it are to go to you? Is that?
Yes. Yes. Can you remind, for anyone watching, when that project is estimated to be finished?
The roadway is to be fully open to traffic by August 10th of 2026, with full project completion November 16th of 2026.
Do we have any kind of timeline on when they're actually going to close the 3rd Street leg?
We don't. Right now, what I will tell you is that is going to be heavily dependent on weather. If it continues to do what it's done over the last week, they may be on that west side for a month or two. I am hopeful that the weather cooperates and that we get it turned around. What I will tell you is we will provide staff with at least a week notice, because that is what Polk County as well as the North Polk School District has requested. So we will include city staff on that correspondence to make sure that they can pass that information along to you all as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Jason?
I just wanted to highlight a few things with you tonight, Council. Last Wednesday, Parks and Rec staff had the opportunity to represent Polk City at the Tree City USA Awards Luncheon in Ankeny. Polk City was recognized as a Tree City community for the 33rd consecutive year, and we were awarded the Growth Award for the 31st time of those 33 years. Just a reminder that the Tree City USA designation and the Growth Award, that's how a municipality manages its public tree resource. A lot of people, we get questions about that a lot of times when we see private trees getting knocked down, but this is how a municipality manages its public trees. And then to tag along to the mayor's proclamation for Arbor Day, on Saturday, April 25th, Polk City Parks and Rec, in collaboration with the Polk City Arbor League, will be doing a tree planting at Marina Cove Park, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We're going to plant 14 trees that morning, and the public is encouraged to come. Bring your gloves and help. Thanks.
You were going to thank him, or?
Well, I didn't know if we're still in the staff section.
We
Can
are,
we talk now?
yeah.
Or do you?
The staff section? Oh, okay.
just-
Okay, so let's
waste of
finish
time.
up with staff. Anything else from staff? Nothing else. Let's move on to council.
So I just wanted to thank Jason for taking what do you say, 33 years?
Yes.
Or what's the longer one? Is that one, 33 years?
33 years is the Tree City designation.
So Jason came in, I know this is not new information, but it's worthy of pointing out nonetheless. And Phil Jensen and Ken Morris led the Arbor League for a long time, and a lot of those years are responsibility from them. And I appreciate staff, new staff especially coming in, recognizing there are good things going, albeit in a different capacity, not officially the city, but he didn't have to do that. That's not a listing of Parks and Rec Director responsibilities, but he did. And I think that's commendable. So appreciate you being cognizant of that history and maintaining it going forward.
How about anybody else from council?
I would just like to congratulate Nick Furness and quick call out the next Public Works Director. And congratulations, look forward to getting you on board, filling Mike's shoes. You'll hear that a lot probably. So I appreciate that. That's all I got.
I don't like that he doesn't wear shorts to everything, though.
Yes. Moving on then, nothing else from council? Moving on to the city manager.
I just want to congratulate Nick as well on his new role. We interviewed a handful of candidates and Nick just rose to the top. So congratulations to you.
The only thing I've got is congratulations to Nick. And that will fulfill item number 10. So item number 11 is a closed session topic. And this is where we thank everybody who's here tonight, who's not involved in the closed session, and invite all those who are involved in the closed session to remain. Closed session is, we go into closed session under Code of Iowa, Chapter 21, official meetings, and those are usually sensitive topics.
You get a big fancy plaque and you don't even want to take it with? Thanks, Chief.
5 minutes?